certain way people that kill people behave. And there's certain things you look for. It's not all telltale, but sometimes you just get a feeling. Running from the police from a murder. When they finally get arrested, they're brought down to the homicide office and they get stuck in the box, which is the interview room. They have a tendency to kind of just ball up and just feel like they're done. It's a sense of relief. And he's crying or she is crying.
What are you doing, man?
The emotion is spilling out of him.
I'm their killer.
You might need to give that thing another look.
You put me in the box and I know I didn't do anything, I'm banging on the door one.
Hello guys, welcome to Chasing a Murderer, also Run Talking News. Don't forget, please subscribe and like right now so you don't forget. That helps this channel reach out further to help these missing people. Also helps you be notified whenever we have new uploads. So we're working on connecting the dots, part 8. And so I had to redo this, and I apologize guys. And I just wasn't real confident in what I had before. So we're going to jump right into December of 2019. This is a very active month where investigators actually start to put the puzzle together and figure out that the kids may be in danger. And so we're talking about Tylee and JJ. Tylee and JJ, 2 children. One almost grown adult, of course, Tylee. And then you have the very young 8-year-old, 7-year-old JJ Vallow. Both kids seem to have been pretty much drugged through hell and then ended up in a very bad situation. Now, guys, Lori Vallow had actually been out there trying to gather. She is titled the gatherer for this firstborn group. And not that long ago, she had made a trip to Hawaii with her daughter Tylee to meet up with a friend we all know by April. Lori had shared several of the paperwork that and charts that Chad had created, ranking people light and dark. According to April, Lori stayed with her for a period of time, but I'm not certain, exactly on that timeline. April says when she arrived, Lori had told April that she and Charles were getting a divorce. This is in February of 2019. Lori tells April that she needs a place to stay. But one has to wonder, what was Lori's true intentions of going to Hawaii? It's around this same time that Lori disappears for over 50 days. What is it and what's in Hawaii that keeps attracting Lori Vallow? April says when Lori starts going over these new beliefs, she says they're very, very divergent. They're not anything like the teachings of the LDS. And on that paperwork, where people are ranked light and dark, April notices that Tylee Ryan is actually marked a dark spirit. She's also telling April that Charles is a demon. And also during that time, she's telling April these things about Charles. And it seems to April that she's kind of victimizing herself and making Charles out to be this horrible, horrible person that she's never seen. Lori's friend April says that she starts talking about her past lives and her lives on different planets. And in her past lives, she notices that Lori has had very significant roles in the history of her Mormon life. big leaders of the Mormon church. She has actually lived those lifetimes as those people. And Lori lets April know that she is here to usher in the second coming of Jesus Christ. She's the gatherer. She has this role to play, and she's here to choose only the chosen people to be with her, Chad, and the rest of the group. That would be Alex Cox, Chad Daybell, Melanie Boudreaux, Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, and several other people. Lori lets April know that she is the chosen one and that they have this mission to travel the world and gather for this special group preparing for Jesus Christ's second coming. April really doesn't believe any of this that she says, but was able to sit there long enough to listen to everything. So it makes you wonder if she actually considered it at one point, or if she was just trying to be a good friend to Lori and just be supportive in her ideas and what she was interested in. Lori tells April that she will have to separate from her family and leave them behind, her husband, her children, as they travel the world and gather the very special people for this 144. It's unclear to April as to when she would be able to get back with her family, but knowing what we know with Lori, she seems to manipulate people away from people that they love, and that could be that could hurt their visions for the future. So, for example, in December, you will see where there is a recording between Melanie Gibb and Lori Vallow. In that recording, Lori suggests that David Warwick is interfering with her relationship and God. We know that Melanie Boudreaux, she suddenly demands a divorce from Brandon. And we know that Lori also had, well, Charles and Lori were going to get a divorce at one point. There's a lot of different choices that she's making, and it excludes the people closest to her. So I did want to cover this before we got into December so that you understand her, where her mind is during December and what she's thinking and why she's thinking the way that she is. What it seems to be is, if you do not fit the role that they have laid out for you, and your thought process is not where they want it, then you're dark and they have no use for you. And they have also, for some people, plans for you, and that includes, this included her own children. So I can't imagine what Tylee Ryan was going through, because I believe that Tylee Ryan was having to pretend to be something and believe in something that she didn't, because she loved her mother so much, and also she knew just how serious her mother could get if you didn't have the belief system expected. And that's just a thought. Can't prove that, but it just seems like that, especially after Lori calls her a zombie and she goes, "No, not me, Mom." So I'm pretty certain Tylee is a very intelligent young woman. She knows something isn't right with her mother. And can you imagine having to live a life where you can't speak out about it because you don't want to hurt your mother? And I'm sure that's what it was with her. She didn't want to be a disappointment. And really, she was kind of figuring out the reality of these teachings. She's trying to figure it out. She hears Charles reaching out saying that they're kind of crazy. You know, he texted Tylee and tells her, here's the link to that Church of the Firstborn. This is what they're doing. But Tylee, she's sticking with her mom all the way through. It's really heartbreaking if you think about it. I mean, just knowing what she went through. So, December, we know that Melanie Boudreaux, Alex Cox, and Lori's reaching out to other people are gathering in the Rexburg, Idaho area. 3 of them are living in the same townhome complex. And in November, Larry Woodcock, concerned for the welfare of J.J. Vallow, have had cops go out to these townhomes to do a welfare check for J.J. J.J. was nowhere to be found, ended up creating a warrant for all 3 townhomes. And this is during Thanksgiving, where they never find any sign of JJ. 2 marriages happened right after those warrants went out. Alex Cox, Zelima, then Melanie Boudreaux and Ian Pawlowski. Ian Pawlowski believes that, well, he tells people that he really doesn't believe in all this mess, and that he goes to the police with concerns. But something else tells me that that's not the truth. And we'll cover that in December as to why. We learned that these marriages that happened between Melanie Boudreaux, Lori's niece, and her brother Alex Cox might be a way to divert investigators and try to mislead them, and also adjust the law to where they can't testify against one another. Moving around creates kind of like a block wall. Makes it more difficult for the law to be able to legally pin them down and make them talk. Police were not able to locate JJ. They talked to Lori Vallow, and Lori Vallow tells them that JJ's with a friend. We know that Lori Vallow had actually contacted Melanie Gibb and asked Melanie Gibb to lie police. And Melanie Gibb does lie to police, but shortly after that, she kind of retracts and tells the police the truth. She even records them, which we'll go over shortly. Around December 4th, Natalie, who was once married to Ian Pawlowski, is writing letters to Justin Lum, a reporter for Fox News. Now, there's different ways as to how Natalie Pawlowski gets in contact with Brandon Boudreaux, the man that was attacked in October, the man that was getting a divorce from Lori Vallow's niece, Melanie Boudreaux. So we'll just say that they got in contact with one another. Also, during this time, Ian is finding out that Melanie Boudreaux has visions. And in those visions, she has seen that Ian's ex-wife, her body is possessed by a demon. It appears that Natalie's spirit had come to Melanie Boudreaux in a visionary dream to tell her about the spirit invasion of her body. So it seems that this email letter going out to various media sources like Justin Lum is an outcry for help for Natalie. Let's not forget, Ian Pawlowski has just recently married Melanie Boudreaux. So it's very important to note that Ian wrote in documents that on our wedding night, Melanie began to elaborate on the idea that she shared earlier about her children coming to her in a dream. And he learned that night that, well, she explained to him that zombies and about her fears, and that she had shed a light on what Lori stated concerning the original spirits being caught in limbo until the body's death. And he's speaking about Tylee and JJ. So we know that Ian was actually hearing this stuff before he got married and on his wedding night. So a letter comes out December 4th, or email, that's going to Justin Lum. In this email, she's very concerned about the well-being of her own children, as well as the children that are missing. And one of the most concerning is the fact that it's mentioned that Natalie's children are full of light, and that light can just disappear, basically, insinuating that they are dark. The same thing that Tylee and JJ have been titled, and those kids are now missing. And it's on their wedding night it's Ian and Melanie's wedding night, and Melanie is talking about kind of threats. And while on their wedding night, she's seducing Ian. She's telling Ian that Natalie's body is possessed by the dark demons. Seems that Melanie Boudreaux has learned to use the manipulative tactics of her Aunt Lori. But in interviews later on, Melanie, she kind of sways away from talking about any of the belief systems involved with this cult group. And there's no doubt, now that we have what we have on this case, that this is a cult. Melanie had just been interrogated 5 hours on this case, and she seems to understand the light and dark very well. And I think she understands what happened to Tylee and JJ. Turns out that Melanie Boudreaux would be the biggest liar of everyone involved with this case. Ian is leading his wife, or ex-wife, Natalie, to believe that he has concerns of the well-being of his children. He even asked her to keep the children during his weekend that he usually has them, because he's afraid. Seems that Lori is the niece of Jesus Christ himself. And in this email as well, Natalie's very concerned. She understands that if you're deemed a dark, there's a possibility that is a threat to your life. And she's very worried about being a missing person. So you can pause this video and read over this letter if you would like. And it's very evident that Melanie Boudreaux is just manipulating people to hide these very strange teachings, the group that she's involved in, and especially the fact that her husband's life had been threatened. In this email, Natalie also addresses a lot of the issues like, can you help us? We need help. We don't know what to do. So it makes you wonder what in the world Ian is telling Natalie. Interestingly, Ian takes his computer to his ex-wife Natalie, where she finds documents that she shares with investigators. It's during this time that Ian Pawlowski is talking with his wife, and he says that he will come forward and speak to investigators. But what she doesn't realize is his prime objective, according to him and what he's saying at the time, is to protect Melanie Boudreaux, because he knows that she's sweet, kind, and innocent. She had just made a complete threat to his children. What is he thinking? That's what people are wondering. What in the world is going on with him? Some people suspect that he's pretending to be with her for unknown reasons. We can speculate as to why he's doing that, if that was true. But in reality, I think he thinks this is a game, and he's enjoying it. And that makes you wonder what kind of man Ian Pawlowski really is. This is no game that you want to be a part of, and especially bringing the people that you love into this. It's not a very good idea. Your children should be your number one priority in life. Doesn't seem to be the case for Ian Pulaski. And if I were Natalie, I would definitely have an attorney and make sure that he could never see those kids as long as he was with that woman. I would take that threat very seriously and seeing what is happening within this case. It's very concerning, very scary. So sometime during this part of the timeline, Ian Pulaski is telling his wife that he's there to help the missing kids, to help her and his children. And that he agrees that he will spy on Lori, Chad, as well as Melanie Boudreaux, trying to find answers on the kids. Everybody knows that his intentions doesn't seem to be legit or real. Ian Pulaski just seems to be playing a game with everybody around him. He even makes comments later joking about the poisons that might be involved with this. Everybody knows that this is no laughing matter, but you will see shortly that he and Melanie Boudreaux both find this very amusing and funny. What I can gather from what I have, witnessed through this is, does Ian Pulaski have a good heart? So far, I don't see it. I don't understand his intentions, and it just seems that he's playing a game with everybody. After Melanie Boudreaux's 4 to 5 hour interrogation by investigators, it seems that she tells Ian that 2 of those investigators are dark as well, and that they are possessed with the spirits of 2 of the original 12 disciples of Cain. And during this time, as I mentioned, Natalie is telling people around her that Ian may go to the police for help. And that's kind of curious, because in some instances we hear that she said, I'm going to the police for help, and he volunteers to go with her. She said that Ian was terrified and asked her to take the kids away from his weekend because, quote, he doesn't want them around her. He has never done that ever, end quote, she says. What was interesting is he asked Natalie to look up names like Alex Cox and Chad Daybell. According to a few documents, it's December 5th of 2019 that they actually go and speak with the police. So on December 6th of 2019, Melanie Gibb contacts Rexburg Police Department as well as the Fremont. She tells the police that Lori Daybell had called her November 26th of 2019 and asked her to lie about the location of the missing child, JJ, but in some versions it says children. It's at this point that deputies start to uncover some very disturbing allegations and more details on this case. And then finally, the Fremont County Sheriff's Office began calling Tammy Daybell's death suspicious. Melanie Gibb, the member of the 144,000 who believes that she is the special person appointed by God to lead the 144,000 along with Lori and Chad, tells police that the last time that she and her boyfriend Warwick seen Lori and Chad back September 22nd, it was the last time that they actually seen JJ. She explains to the police that on the night of September 22nd, 2019, while making podcasts for this, preparing the people, they said that they noticed Alex Cox, Lori's brother, walked in the door carrying JJ, and JJ's head lying on Alex's shoulders. He appeared to be asleep. It's the next morning, and Melanie Gibb and her boyfriend David Warwick are packing up and preparing to leave. They walk downstairs, and there in the kitchen, they ask about JJ. Lori had mentioned to them that JJ was crawling in the kitchen cabinets and knocking over pictures of Jesus. He was acting like a zombie, so Alex took him away. Quite an interesting choice of words. Alex took him away. So where did Alex take him away to? Apparently, we find out later it wasn't to school. And Melanie told the investigators that Lori was saying all that week that JJ was a zombie, and even asked Melanie, questions about it. If she noticed anything different about him, and wanted Melanie Gibb to pretty much concur and agree that JJ's actions were consistent of JJ being a zombie. It's sometime during this point that David Warwick actually became skeptical, and he wants out of this group that's attached to Lori and Chad. And there's allegations out there saying that David Warwick is the one that actually sets Melanie Gibb straight and has her give a full report to the police. They also take it a step further by the two of them planning to record a conversation with Chad and Lori on their personal phones. According to Melanie Gibb, this is something that she decides to do on her own and has nothing to do with investigators asking her to do this. So Melanie Gibb, together with her boyfriend, they used both phones in order to accomplish this recording, and they call Lori up, and this is on December 8th. So let me let you hear this clip. But before we play that clip, you got to remember that in between December 6th, December 8th, somewhere in that time frame, Melanie Gibb has called Alex Cox, Lori's brother, and she's talked to him about everything that's happening and how she feels about it. She talks to Alex about the fact that she may not believe in zombies. And Alex Cox tells her that he 100% believes in those zombies. He also tells Alex Cox about the fact that Lori told police that JJ was with her. And he says, "Oh, she threw you under the bus." And what was even more shocking besides those statements is the fact that when Melanie Gibb asked Alex Cox, according to Melanie, allegedly, Alex Cox says that they won't be able to find JJ. And that basically no one will ever find out wherever, he is. And you'll hear word for word what Melanie claims in this next clip. So, December 8th, David Warwick, Melanie Gibb call Lori Vallow. Kids are missing. Warrants are out for search warrants are out. They're searching apartments. They realize now that Tylee Ryan is also missing. Here we go.
This is a recording on December 8th at 3:43 p.m. And I am calling Chad Daybell's phone number, and hopefully I will be talking to both of them, Chad and Lori. So here goes the phone call.
Hello, sweet Melanie.
Hi, Chad. Hey, Lori. Hi.
Hey, let me put on speaker.
Oh, okay.
Alright.
We're enough with the phone. How are you guys?
We're okay. How are you doing, babe?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. guys?
We're just hanging out.
Are you in Idaho?
We're near Idaho.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you a question, if you don't mind, Lori.
Yeah, of course.
I want to know, you remember we talked about JJ going to Kay's house, and you told me they went there, and now he's not there? I was wondering what happened.
Well, I had to move him somewhere else because of her actions. So,
Was she doing something? Like, was she trying to come get him or something? Or, like, trying to kidnap him?
well, she said that lots of times before, but,
Okay, when I asked Chad the other day, I was like, hey, where is JJ? And he said, for my security, he didn't want me to know, so is there a reason I should be in danger to know where he is?
no, it's nobody. It's his danger. It's the danger that there's people after me.
Okay.
So,
If you knew, that puts you in a danger.
well, just in a bad position.
Yeah, bad position.
Everybody, if they don't know anything, then they don't have to say they know.
Right, so you're just worried. Okay.
I'm just to keep him protected and
keep you protected.
keep everybody else good.
I appreciate that. Well, I was wondering why you told the police why he was with me.
I just needed to have somebody that, so I wouldn't have to tell them where he really was, because they were going to tell Kay where he is.
Yeah, so do you think it's like your family? Or, like your family, your dad, or, those
Well, my
people?
family, well, not my whole family, but as you know, most of my family is working against me and
Yeah.
with her, basically.
Yeah. Is JJ safe?
She is safe and happy.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Are you afraid of anything? Like, are you afraid to tell me that you're just afraid that that I could be in danger? Like like if I knew, like how could that hurt me? I don't understand how that could hurt me if I knew where he was.
Well, I'm just not telling anybody so that nobody has to say where he is or get questioned to where he is, so I can keep him as safe as possible.
Yeah. Okay, I hope that he's okay. I hope you guys are okay. I did have a question that I asked Al at one point, your brother, if I wanted to know, like where he was, and he said I did not want to know, and that he could not be found. So what does that mean? So that's probably the most damning part of all the evidence out there, is where she talks to Alex Cox, but then again, it's kind of hearsay. But Alex Cox says to her that you may not want to know. You don't want to know, rather. And that can be taken several ways. You can take it as it's best you don't know, or else. Or you just don't want to know what we did with him because it's just so horrible. So it's very curious as to what Alex Cox might have meant by that statement. They're really lucky to have Melanie Gibb speak out, because otherwise, where would this case be right now? As far, at this point with what we have on Lori and Chad. I keep thinking about the Charlie Manson case and how Charlie Manson was able to be prosecuted without, his hands really being dirty. Keep hoping that we do get more evidence, but the call continues. Melanie Gibb continues to kind of ask Lori Vallow questions she seems to think is very important. So let's continue.
I don't know why he would say that, but it's the same story. Like I don't even want Al to know. I don't want anybody to know, so that nobody has to be worried about it. I mean, nobody has to be questioned about it so he can be safe.
Yeah, so how long are you gonna be away for? Like, are you ever gonna be able to come out and come back to society again? Or are you gonna keep, come back? What does that look like?
I will do whatever the Lord needs me to do every day, so we'll see.
I just wondered if I was ever gonna see you again.
Absolutely, you will.
Okay, so maybe when they're done chasing you, you'll be able to come out again, or?
Yeah, it's a ridiculous thing for them to be working with Kay to find me. There's nothing that's gone on that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're working with her in some dark capacity. The police are working with her in some dark capacity. There's no reason for them to be after me in the first place.
Okay, pausing a moment and thinking about something. Don't forget, guys, that Lori had mentioned that her kids were in the way of her mission. So that's important to remember the entire story. Never, never forget that. Because you will hear her and get distracted by her false reasonings as to why JJ and Tylee are no longer here. She uses the fact that their bodies are possessed by zombies. They're dark for the end result. But it just seems like in reality, the more that you listen and understand this story, that Lori is manipulating quite a bit of belief systems in order to get what she wants. And she's seeking this great leadership. But for what reason, we don't know. We don't know if it's because she wants to feel loved. She wants to be this great leader. But what's also important to notice is Chad is sitting right beside her. If you think that she is manipulating him, you got another thing coming. These guys are on the same level. They know exactly at this moment that they are both lying to everybody and everybody that they supposedly care about. Lori has sacrificed her own children for this man and her desires. Continuing on.
Well, has she threatened you at all?
Yes, lots of times.
Oh boy, what did she say?
Well, it's in emails and everything, so.
So, she said she was going to come take him, or she was...
There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Melanie.
I know, it sounds like it. I'm just worried for you guys because, he's missing, and,
I know exactly where he is. He's perfectly fine and happy.
Okay, well, I hope so. I have a scripture I wanted to share with you, if you don't mind.
I'd love it.
I was thinking about some of the things you guys have gone through, and I saw this scripture today, and I want you to
Let me ask you a question about a scripture. Okay, so did Alma turn himself into King Noah, or what was he required to do?
Well, King Noah was incredibly wicked.
Yes.
So he fled.
Now you have to remember, guys, when they start talking here, that they talked about translating things. And she knows that she's done wrong. And she's saying that, would she turn herself in? Anyways, just listen a little bit closer.
Well, King Noah was incredibly wicked.
Yes.
So he fled his evil ways, which is adultery and living riotously and breaking all the commandments.
Right. So what was he required to do, Alma?
He had to go and flee so that he would be safe, and then help other people realize how jacked up the system was and the government was.
What about Moroni? What was he required to do at the end?
To carry on those plates and bury them. That was his responsibility.
What did he have to do to do that? Did he hide?
He had to hide. He had to hide because they were so. Everybody was killing everybody in the society. Everybody was dying. They were killing all the Nephites.
Felt in the scriptures had to hide in the cavity of a rock by day and go out by night.
The prophets did.
They did.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for sharing that with me. Okay, this scripture is just something that may be thoughtful for you. For behold, this is Doctrine and Covenants, section 3, verse 7 and 8. It says, for behold, you should not have feared man more than God. Although men sought not the counsels of God and despised his words, yet you should have been faithful, and he would have extended his arm and supported you against all the fiery darts of the adversary. He would have been with you in every trouble. So when we work with the Lord and are obedient, He's going to protect us from adversarial darts and all kinds of negativity. But when we open the door to Satan, he comes in and then he attacks, and then he takes away to make it look like somebody else took it away. But that's not how God works. He doesn't work in darkness.
I agree with you 100%, and that's what the Lord is doing for me. Exactly what He's doing for me.
Oh, it just
we have not opened the door for darkness, Mel. Darkness is knocking on the door all the time because that's the way dark works with the light. And I promise you that I have done nothing wrong in this case, but sometimes you have to hide in the cavity of a rock for your own life safety. And that's what the Lord requires of you sometimes. And that's how it is. And I'm sorry that's how it is, because there is a lot of darkness on the earth.
I know.
It's after me for zero reason, besides the darkness of Kay, which you already know she's dark.
I haven't met her enough to know she's dark.
Okay, this part is very concerning. You need to pay attention. So this is the part where you have to know that Melanie Gibb is way involved with this. She could have stood up for Charles and helped him when he was crying for help and saying how crazy this group was and his concerns for the children. Melanie Gibb was well aware of the concerns and the safety for those children. She was there the entire time. Also, according to Lori, what sets her off is when Melanie denies that she's seen anything on Lori Vallow's computer. She does this probably thinking she's protecting herself. Well, in reality, she's just making herself look like an idiot. But it's that point that Lori realizes that most likely her denying all that because she knows better. Melanie Gibb's probably recording this conversation, and it's around this same time that Ian is supposedly recording conversations with the two as well. But it's kind of, it's not good to see that Melanie Gibb is supposed to be this great example to God. She quotes all these scriptures, but she seems to be struggling with the truth. But anyways, here's the rest on that. Pay attention close.
I don't know if she's dark or not. I've just met her slightly, and she seemed like a normal kind of person, but then I haven't engaged with her that much, so I don't know that personally.
So you don't know about her changing the thing for herself to be the beneficiary of the policy and all that stuff. None of that's dark, right?
Well, I haven't seen those documents, so I have no way of knowing.
You've seen them on my computer.
No, I have not. I haven't even looked in on your computer before. You haven't showed me anything.
I don't know why you're being controversial to me, or if you're recording this conversation for the police or whatever. I don't know what your intention is on this phone call, but I love with all my heart, and I have forever, and I will always see you.
So there, Lori claims that Melanie Gibb did see documents on her computer where Kay was trying to mess with the beneficiary, most likely of his life insurance policy. And if you remember, Charles Vallow claims that Lori Vallow was the one trying to change the passwords and stuff on that insurance policy. He had emails proving that he had these concerns. And anyways, turns out that Kay ended up being the beneficiary. So that's kind of suspicious in itself when you hear this. And it just seems like Melanie Gibb knows a lot more about that situation than she's leading on. And it's too bad she doesn't come forward with everything that she does know, because it can't be pinned on her. She is the main witness in this. She needs to just be truthful. But it's at that point that you can see that Melanie Gibb did play a bigger role in this case than she's leading on. But, not trying to down her or anything, because she is coming forward. But it makes you wonder, what made her suddenly come to the police and come forward? And I think that's because when Lori drug her in to the point of throwing the responsibility of JJ onto her shoulders, that scared her. Why would it scare her? Because she knew something. She knew there's a possibility that JJ was no longer here, and that is concerning. So the best thing, if I was in her shoes, is I would just come out and tell everything I knew. It's the best thing to do. So you got her coming forward at this point, and you have the police crashing down on Lori and Chad. They're starting to realize that the kids are in danger. And what's important to note is now they're talking about exhuming Tammy Daybell, the wife of Chad Daybell's body. But they're trying to do it in secret. They don't want people to know that this is happening. But sadly, they weren't able to keep that under wraps. And people were on it. They knew exactly what was going on. So they did end up setting an appointment to exhume Tammy's body. It's December 11th, guys. But before we go into that, we got to go a little bit of a recap. Remember, this group of people believe that the government and everybody is against them. They don't trust the government. Laws, they believe, don't apply to them. Around this time as well, we know that Ian was trying to convince Melanie to attend a family court proceeding scheduled for December 11th of 2019. And his text indicates that he is struggling to convince Melanie because her uncles have Melanie so wrapped up. They're telling her that she needs to move to Amman. So it sounds like they're telling her to move around, move to different jurisdictions. While many people believe Adam is this great guy, I doubt any of them are. So this kind of teaching sounds very similar to the beliefs of, the jurisdiction type things that sovereign citizens also follow. These are people that are very paranoid about law, government, and they're just constantly paranoid. They don't believe that they have to pay taxes. They just believe that law doesn't apply to them. A lot of people believe that these marriages that were set up for Alex and Melanie would prevent them from having to testify against one another. It's called spousal privilege. So I could say that's the possibility or the motivation for these shotgun weddings, and especially since they tied the knot just days after police executed search warrants on all three of their apartments, Lori, Alex, and Melanie's. Now, Chad Daybell's wife passed away unexpectedly. It's a suspicious death. And with everything surrounding this family, on December 11th, authorities say that they're concerned about Tammy Daybell's passing. And it's at 6 a.m. Wednesday that they prepare to exhume her body. It's nearly 2 months after her death. And Oldroyd says, quote, we did exhume as confidentially as we could. This is the administrative services manager. So employees with the city parks department arrived at the Evergreen Cemetery at 6 a.m., which was a Wednesday, to prepare for a second autopsy. Oldroyd also said, quote, many other people were here that had to be here. witnesses, county attorneys, the sheriff from Idaho, the sheriff from Utah, coroner assistants, and the funeral director. He said all of that had to be done, end quote. So it's December 11th, and by 6:30, all the witnesses have showed up. They began to exhume Tammy's body, and by 2:30 p.m., they had put Tammy Daybell's body back underground. What's interesting to note is that Oldroyd said, quote, I have known Chad and Tammy a long, long time. As many people in Springville have. To this day, if I thought of Tammy Daybell, it would be that she was smiling and she's happy. That's how she was, end quote. So a lot of people having concerns of how many people know the Daybells that are involved with investigating this case. That includes relatives who are married to supposedly one of the detectives involved with this case. Now, it's interesting to note that we're moving to December 12th. It's the very next day. On this day, we find out some very surprising news. We must note that Alex Cox had been talking to Lori Vallow, Melanie Boudreaux, and according to them, Alex Cox was not feeling very well that entire week. He had become short of breath. He complained that he was having difficulty just bending over to get a bottle. But this is something they say after the fact. Zulema, who had just married Lori's brother Alex Cox, just out of the blue, calls Melanie Boudreaux. Melanie says she begins to talk to Zulema and tell her about her day. But it's at that point that Zulema stops her and tells her that something bad had happened. She tells Melanie Boudreaux that her uncle, Alex Cox, had passed away. According to Melanie, Ian is there and Melanie drops to the floor in shock. It's not long, and the media is just throwing the 911 recording out there, and we're going to go over that on part 9 of Connecting the Dots, because I'm going to have to go ahead and cut it off here because it's too hard to make videos any longer than this. But because of the timing of when Alex Cox passes away, it's right after Tammy body's exhumed. The kids are disappeared. Charles has passed away. Brandon Boudreaux was attacked. They're worried about that. So guys, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Do not forget these faces right here. These girls are still missing and they need our help. Alright guys, I got to go. I've got puppies begging for attention. I appreciate you guys helping us out. Love you, bye.